Steve Cohen gets an A plus in my book for this answer. This needs to be said, and I'm glad he said it in front of the fan base because the fan base needs to hear stuff like this. Look, I get people love Pete Alonso. It's way more of a sentimental thing than anything at this point. That's what it is with Pete Alonso. I bet half the people that were in that panel sitting in the crowd, you talk to them back in let's say let's say August. I bet half those people were probably fine to move on from Pete Alonso at that point in the season. If it all goes back to what we've talked about in the beginning of our offseason videos. If Pete Alonso did not hit that home run in Milwaukee, a lot of people would be fine where the Mets are at right now. But he hit the home run, he extended their season, and he had a very good postseason. We do have to give him credit for that. He had like a 998 OPS or something like that in the postseason. He had a very good postseason for the Mets after a bad first two games in Milwaukee in that wild card round. But it's a business. And obviously, we've talked about this even on our last episode. This is not the New York Mets saying Pete Alonso is worth only 3 years, 70 million. It's all of Major League Baseball that is saying this. It's not just a Mets thing. So I'm very glad Steve Cohen was brutally honest, like he said in his quote. He's brutally honest. This is how it's going. This is how it is. He's going to stay flexible. If they come back and they work something out, great. But you need to address the other needs that the team has, and they have done that by bringing in Winker and AJ Minter. They were also interested in Jerickson Profar, who recently signed with the Atlanta Braves. So they're still being active, in free agency, and I'm sure we've talked about it as well. Maybe they'll like explore a trade option or something like that. They're staying active. They're still adding to this roster. But like you said, as they continue to bring players in, there's less room for Pete Alonso. And I think the Mets are taking the right approach with this. And I think David Stearns and Steve Cohen, people need to trust them, especially David Stearns, who has a tremendous track record going back to Milwaukee. And even just last year alone, did a fantastic job with this team. So people, I think, need to chill the you know what out and let the Mets do what they are doing because I think they are playing this correctly.
Yeah, a few things I want to add because you gave a well-rounded rant. I would say there a well-rounded rant. So it was good on you. You're totally correct. Um, I do find it a little bit unfortunate that the Mets we as fans are lucky enough to have a guy like David Stearns at the helm. We have said that on the podcast numerous times. I think the Mets are very lucky to have such a bright baseball mind as their president of baseball operations. And one thing that does bug me is that when David Stearns gives his answer, he gets the boos, and then Steve Cohen gives an answer and he gets the cheers. While David Stearns has to give the more, maybe not as brutally honest answer as a president of baseball operations. I think it's silly that Mets fans boo that guy who maybe not in the same words, but is exactly saying the same things than Steve Cohen. And because it's Steve, people are cheering. And that bugs me a little bit. I think David Stearns earns a lot more respect than he gets from a lot of baseball fans. Steve Cohen has done a tremendous job too. Mostly, I would let this type of things go with the president of baseball operations, and I don't want my owner. I've said that here too. I don't want my owner of the baseball team be that much of a big part in decision making. I don't think right now Steve necessarily is that, but I think Steve had to took that stand and turned the perception around by a lot of people in that room. And to me, it's unfortunate that Steve is the only one capable of doing that for this fan base. And that's not no knock on David Stearns, because I believe there are many, many Mets fans who are extremely happy with David Stearns. But there are also a lot of Mets fans who call him Sleepy Stearns or whatnot because he signed Juan Soto and maybe is not re-signing Pete Alonso. And also, it also bugs me then if when you say this, then they say, yeah, Juan Soto was a Steve Cohen thing and not a David Stearns thing, which also is bananas to me because David Stearns is your president of baseball operations, so he makes the baseball decisions. So um, it's not like Steve Cohen does the good things and David Stern does maybe the less sexy things on paper. That's also something that's completely wrong in vision of many Mets fans. And for the rest, I totally agree. So I don't have to repeat what you said.